Hello, thanks for watching. Earlier today, I sent out a 5-minute video to those subscribing to those videos, and I've had some second thoughts that I wanted to share with those who are in the 36th Advanced Cycles course. So what I have on here shows a 20-day low that I have selected. Now, I've put a trend line in, a valid trend line, if in fact this is the 20-day low. And I made a note up here that I missed putting that trend line in. So there's no woulda, coulda, shoulda sort of stuff. But I've had second thoughts. And as an analyst, as a cycle analyst, there are times when you're not sure. Now, I've chosen this one because it's in orb, but the bounce out the other side of whatever this low is. Now, I looked at that and it's about 7 days along. It's also from the 40-day, it's about 24 days along. And I said, 7 days is a bit short for a 10-day and 24 is a bit long for a 20-day. And so I selected this one up here. I think possibly that is wrong. So let's take that valid trend line off there. Let's pick this up and let's let CycleMaster make its decision. And so we go update cycles. And CycleMaster has chosen this one out here. Now, I saw that at the start of the earlier video. And of course, me being the master, I said, nah. The more that I've thought about it, the more I recognise that this amount of plunge followed by this amount of bounce, it's got to be bigger than a 10-day. And this little one that I chose up here, that was just a little tiddler. So what we can do now is we can actually put in place this valid trend line. So what I'm doing is I'm going from the 40-day low to the 20-day low and joining those up with a trend line. Now, we haven't covered the concept of a valid trend line yet. That's in session 4. But I want to put this out because when you get to session 4 and you come to understand what a valid trend line is, you'll be able to look back on this and say, oh, yeah, okay, I understand. Now, there's two things that should happen here. One is price should hesitate at some point in time on the way up, and that could happen tomorrow. It could happen later in this week. But what we've got is a 40-week cycle that's pointed down. That's this one here, into the center of its orb, which is the largest orb that we've got on. Also pointed down is the 20-week cycle, which is this blue orb, and its low is, its orb center is over here. Now, the little 20-day is going to have trouble pushing up against a 40-week that's on its way down, 20-week that's on its way down. So perhaps this FLD, which again we haven't covered and won't cover until session 4, might haul this up because sometimes they actually behave a bit like an electric fence. So price sort of says, no, I'm not going to cross that. So this is an example here of how this 20-day came down and said, no, no way, I'm not going to cross that. So where to from there? Well, if the FLD is crossed, there's a possibility with the underlying strength in this market that it may push up towards the all-time high, which is the horizontal dashed line. And it's possible that we might get a double top. I think it's likely that price won't get up there because this overlapping zone, in fact, the zone now has shifted. So we need to make an adjustment here because this 20-day orb has shifted. So we need to pick these up and we've got a new overlapping situation. So these are no longer accurate and these will have to be updated. Now, I'm not going to do that right now, but that's an example of why we don't push too far out with these orbs into the future, because they are going to be adjusted, likely going to be adjusted. So these dates need to be changed to reflect what's actually happening there. And from a paper trading perspective, we can now get back on the horse and we can say, okay, when this upward sloping valid trend line is broken to the downside, we're going to trade short into the 40-week low zone. Now, what that means is that turning short also requires us to get out of any long positions. So I'll update that concept with an email because we have stayed long. So there's no woulda, coulda, shoulda in what we're doing with the paper trading. And now with me adjusting my thinking on this, we can continue with the paper trading. And as an example, trade short into this 40-week low. Okay, thanks for watching.